The following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning. Welcome to Your Money. This is Becca Wilton and Sherri Goss here with Rosenberg Financial Group. The main thing we do as financial advisors is provide retirement planning advice, and we manage our clients' investment accounts. We do have offices here in Macon and Warner Robins. You can learn more about us on our website, retirerelax.com. We have great special reports on there, as well as you can listen to all of our past radio shows. Call in today with your financial questions. Our phone number is 478-742-0940. We're here to take your calls about all things financial. And if you don't want to call, email me at becca@rfmoney.com, and we'll try and get back to you next week with your questions. But I don't have my email working today. So
really? What happened?
Story.
Oh.
My phone. I got the new phone, and then I got everything. I was trying to get it all switched over, but then I had to back it up to my old phone, and then it reset it all. So now I got to go back.
I love it. Love technology.
Yes.
Randy's phone died. Yesterday, day before. I can't keep up with anything, but he had to go get a new phone, and I haven't even asked the status of him. But he couldn't get on the internet yesterday with the new phone.
Oh, yeah. He said he really liked it, and he said that he got a really good deal. I think it was way better than what I got as far as the trade-in value.
Yeah.
So he's going to take yours and trade yours in next.
What? He's not touching my phone. Nothing's wrong with my phone. Get away. All righty. So here's the quandary. So the market has been down. I don't understand it. This makes no sense. It's making me so mad because our client accounts, we're having to stop out of stocks. We're having to stop out of stuff because we promise our clients they're not going to have losses, and so we have to stop out of good companies.
That we're not going to have as big of losses. He said we promised him no losses.
Well, so we're going to be down a little bit, but we don't go down like so back in 2007, 2008, 2009, when the market was down 50%, our most aggressive client was down 15%. And so that's our goal, is to stop out when things are bad. But here's the problem. We've never been where we are today in the market. So America's GDP grew by 5.7% in 2021. This just came out Friday. It's the fastest growth in almost 4 decades. Okay?
That is absolutely crazy.
So the market's up. So Friday, better than expected rise in fourth quarter GDP. Companies reporting earnings positive, but still preaching. The government keeps preaching. They keep preaching to get out of technical stocks. So it doesn't make any sense to me because technology is driving our entire economy. What runs your car? Chips. You have like 100 to 250 chips in your car, which is technology. You're on a computer all day long. You're on an iPhone all day long. You're watching the internet. That's all technology, and the government is telling you to get out of those companies because it's all crashing, and it's not.
Everything we do is technology.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
Look at the driverless tractors, driverless trucks. I mean, look at the automation in a Tyson, the distribution center on I-75 that is all driven by technology.
All the machines, all the Frito-Lay, all the automation, all these companies.
Robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make any sense to me, and it's made me really angry this week. But so Apple finally came out this week. Their sales were up 11%. They blew it out the window. Revenues are up $30 billion despite supply chain issues. I mean, even without that. So Amazon was up yesterday. Google was up. Microsoft was up. I don't understand the narrative of our government telling us to get out of technology when technology is driving everything. It just makes no sense. Here's the other thing that makes no sense. So we subscribe to a company called Stansberry Research, and I was looking at their website yesterday, and Ukraine. So everybody's freaking out about that. So right now, I saw a radio program yesterday and the website. And on the radio show, the commentator was saying, it was Dan Bongino yesterday, he says that Biden called Ukraine offering for us to help and send troops over. They don't want us doing anything. They want us to just leave them alone because it's a regional issue that's being sensationalized by the media, and there's nothing we even need to be doing with it. And why are we creating all this stress and drama? Why is the media doing this to us when it's not the truth?
It's their narrative, just like we've talked about before. It sells. People are interested in the fear and the things that grab your attention, and so they've just got to keep coming up with stuff and making up things. And
just a lot of garbage, and it's affecting the markets. I mean, that's what really makes me mad. So then we also subscribe to Ladenburg, who is a member of our overarching entity that we're under. We're with Royal Alliance, but the overarching, I don't know.
The entity, Royal Alliance is part of Advisor Group.
Advisor Group, thanks so much. So they're saying Fed rate hikes by themselves do not mean the bull market is approaching an end. In fact, a year after the first hike in the previous 8 hiking cycles saw the S&P 500 index higher a year later. So that's the other thing they're pounding on is the Fed rate hike, and it's going to just destroy the economy and make us all broke. I'm telling you, you need to shut the TV off. Just shut it down and just look at the basics and get back to your life, and because this is all fear-mongering. And now there's a new Omicron variant. They're calling it the BA.2. And they say it's 1.5 times more transmissible than the original strain or than Omicron. There's dozens of 127 cases nationwide. So let's all freak out about that.
So it's Omicron, but a different variant of Omicron. So instead of having its own name, it's just like a variant of that.
Yes.
Because, we had Delta and Omicron.
Yes.
Those names were easy, but now it's the Omicron BA.
BA.2.
Who gets to be in charge of making up those names and all that?
Anyways.
All right. We came across an article about a plane repair company bringing 200 jobs to Macon, so we always love to hear about that. The Macon-Bibb Industrial Authority is welcoming an expanding company to Central Georgia. And I don't know if you actually pronounce this somehow or if it's just the initials. It's MHIRJ. So it's Canadian Aviation Company, MHIRJ. And they announced on Thursday their plans to expand to Central Georgia. The company's largest operation is in its maintenance and overhaul facilities. It currently has locations in Bridgeport, West Virginia, and Tucson, Arizona, and its next stop is Middle Georgia Regional Airport.
This is huge.
Yeah, it's been in the making for months, and talking back to the airport in 2017, they lost every single tenant they had when Boeing left, and they lost a lot of people. So they're looking forward to this bringing back some life, and they're looking for aircraft maintenance, structural, and avionic technicians. So
we have a lot of those.
Yeah, they figured with the base there would be a lot of a good job.
A lot of those
here.
people.
So 200 plus new jobs, and they said they're already starting interviews. So MHIRJ, and email me, Becca at rfmoney.com, and we'll send you more information if you need a job or you know somebody that you need to get an interview for.
This is great. So I had PRK surgery on my eyes a couple of years ago with Dr. Eisner, and we've become friends. Randy and Dr. Eisner's wife, Jane, we all have a lot in common, and so we go out once in a while, and they invited us to attend their, why am I struggling with words this morning?
Their son's service?
Their son is a rabbi in a synagogue, but they are Jewish followers of Jesus. And I had never met people like this before. This is a whole new thing to me. So they invited us to a service at their synagogue last Saturday. It was 11 o'clock, which I highly recommended because it was just fantastic. And their son, Damien, plays guitar and sings for like 45 minutes.
Wow,
the opening.
Awesome.
I mean, he's amazing. The music's amazing. He's amazing. And then he gets up and speaks, and he does a teaching lesson at 11 o'clock. And the lesson was phenomenal. It was about 30 minutes long, and I have it in my email. If you want to see it, just email me, Sherri, Sherri, at rfmoney.com, and I will forward the link to you because it is really good. So he makes biblical references, quotes scripture. If that offends you, then don't look at it. But to me, it was extremely uplifting, and positive. And I listened to it again yesterday, and I probably need to listen to it about every morning, maybe.
At least every other morning. It's like a good meditation to really set your day and get your mindset right.
Yeah. So here's the teaching. So the topic was, what you're doing is not good. And he gives scriptural reference first, and then he gives his message. And here are the 3 points. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. He said, you're available to everybody all the time, and the stress of this is too heavy. So office problems, interruptions, constantly shifting gears equals stress. Many of us have over-connected lives, and so I'll just confess right now, I wake up, this morning the cat woke me up at 5:30, so I get up at 5:30.
Bessie?
Mm-hmm. I make a cup of coffee, and I get on my phone, and I scan all the news headlines. This is what I do, and I do it every morning.
And that's what he was saying. It becomes an addiction.
It's an addiction.
Just a habit that
I'm
every
addicted
morning.
to looking at this stupid news because I want to know what's going on with the markets and everything, and I can't just sit and, I'm going to have to work on this seriously. But anyways, and our kids, think about your kids and your grandkids and how many times they pick up their phone and look at it in a day.
Well, my stepdaughter, Sarah, I'll go up to her room, and her phone, she'll be asleep, and her phone's next to her head. She falls asleep with the phone in the bed, and so she's reading it and about falling asleep, and she stays on it like almost every waking moment
it's not good for your
she
brain.
falls asleep on it.
So, anyway, so number 1 is the stress that it creates by being overconnected. Number 2, multitasking is a myth. It is stressing us out. When we switch from task A to task B, a residual of task A stays in our mind for 20 minutes, distracting us while we try to do task B. This causes us to not be as effective or to even make mistakes. Focusing on a specific skill at a time actually strengthens the myelin in your brain. Myelin is needed for brain function.
Isn't that 20 minutes just unbelievable? Like, I think about that, and I think, I can glance at something and look back, and I can't, it's hard to imagine that that's really stuck in my brain for 20 more minutes. It's taking up space and, like, conflicting. I'm trying to go on to the next thing, but other thing's lingering, and so it's, causing a confliction there.
But I have total stress. I'll be in the middle of doing something, and then somebody will call and want to talk to me on the phone, and I have a hard time switching my brain from what I was doing to the phone, and it's just been too much lately. This really hit me in the head. So number 3, a way forward. Be still, be intentional, and see what happens. Meditate. Choose whether you want to create or react. I just love that. So he is reading the book called Deep Work. So you can see the replay of the teaching by either going to Shalom Macon. It's SHALOMACON. There's not 2 M's. Shalom Macon is only 1 M in the middle, .org. Or you can email me, Sherri, SHERRI, at rfmoney.com, and I will forward it to you because it is absolutely, totally worth hearing this message. And it may not be for you because you might be retired and relaxed, and you're out there just doing your thing, and you have all day long to do whatever you want to do. But look at your kids, and look at your grandkids and your great-grandkids. So we have the grandbaby this weekend, and she tells us she has her own phone now.
Oh, wow.
She's 6. Why?
Wow.
Why?
Her people need to get a hold of her.
Seriously? You really need a phone to look at all day long? And they didn't bring it because they know we're anti-phone with her, so she didn't bring it on, and she's spending the weekend with us, but I don't know. But
I guess if you think about it as just like a little tablet or a mini computer, every kid's have a computer. If you try to think of it that way instead of like a 6-year-old having a phone, like
she has 2 tablets. Anyways, but this guy, Damien Eisner, is so seriously gifted. I wish it's worth going to the synagogue just to see him play the guitar and sing. The guy is amazing, and he's funny, he's talented, he's smart, he knows Scripture. It's just unbelievable.
The last point, the way forward, to be still and meditate, he mentioned that you should try for at least the last half an hour of your day to put your phone down and, have no screen time.
Yes.
Either, he suggested the Bible, but even a book, like Sherri said, if you're not, into the Bible. But, I've read so many things about the blue light and all the radiation and just all of that, how it keeps your brain stimulated, and that you should, do without any type of screen time for your own sake, for your senses and your, the nerves and all that. It can really help. But then to have your brain shift and just be in a book, it takes a whole different thought process to be staring at a book and actually trying to read something for half an hour and stay engaged in it versus, like you said, scrolling. You know, when you're in Facebook and you scroll, you're looking at, I don't even know how many things a minute or a second, and you're just seeing all these different stories, and all these things are just pinging around in your brain like, oh, look, that's what she's eating. Oh, look, where are they at? Oh, look, there's, homecoming. All that stuff just flips through your brain so
Too
fast.
much.
It is.
It's an overload.
So being able to just focus on one thing right before you go to sleep. Find a good book, something, maybe it's something completely enjoyable, maybe it's self-help, maybe it's the Bible, whatever it is, but find something that can help your brain slow down before you go to sleep.
That's what we do every night. We get our books out and read for an hour before we go to bed. And I highly recommend the C.J. Box Joe Pickett series. Man, we read the whole thing, and it was just phenomenal.
He was talking about there was a study, and people even wake up in the middle of the night and get on their phone.
Our kids were doing it.
Oh,
our kids were doing it. They
crazy.
were in high school, and they were doing that, and we made a rule that when they went to bed, they had to leave their phones on the kitchen counter to go to bed, because our son was complaining how tired he was because it was ting all night long. People were texting all night.
That's crazy.
It's just stupid.
You imagine you're sound asleep, you hear the ding, you wake up, and you read about it. And he said, whatever you read, if it's an email or a text or, whatever, especially if it's a work email or something weird, then your brain starts trying to figure out how to respond to that and how to answer. And so instead of your brain being in shutdown mode, it goes into hyper mode all over again.
So there's another article about myelin. So this is an important thing in your brain. So the white matter is called myelin, a fatty tissue that coats most of the long arms that extend out of our neuron cells, kind of like the insulation around an electrical cable. These long arms are called axons and carry an electrical charge from one neuron to the next in the chain, like a domino effect. What scientists have found is that when the axon is coated in more myelin, the nerve signals are able to travel much faster and stronger along the neural pathway. Basically, this means that myelin turns your brain signals from a dial-up internet speed to superfast broadband. This means you are able to perform skills with much greater accuracy and precision. The big question, how do you get more myelin? By repeating something over and over, not by switching tasks. Switching tasks means you don't build myelin. So if you're constantly distracted and looking at your phone and changing gears all the time, your brain can't create myelin. If you're doing the same thing over and over and over, then your brain creates myelin and you get a stronger brain.
And that can be good and bad, because you can, if you have bad habits, it's going to make neural paths for that as well and strengthen bad habits. So you want to make sure that you're doing good habits and not bad ones.
Do you want to talk about this next one, the giving up the Internet for 3 months?
Yeah, real quick. Also, I wanted to mention something about student loan payments. Last year, they had said that student loans would be on, you would have deferred payments, and you would have to make payments until January. So that it was set to expire January 31st, which is Monday, but they have extended that now. So there's there's still a pause on federal student loan payments until May 1st now. So you have, 5 more months that you don't have to make your payments on your student loans. It said student loan balances have been effectively frozen for nearly 2 years. Can you imagine? And supposedly...
So what about the interest?
Well, the interest supposedly is not adding on, but this is federal loans. So that doesn't include all of the private loans out there. And I think some of those companies did defer the payments so you didn't have to be making payments. But you know that those balances are just going up, and people have such a hard time getting student loan debt paid off as it is. Taking 2 years off from payments, that's just scary. But it said some tips. What was it? So funny. Biden, he implored borrowers to start planning now for when the payments resume. And this is his quote. As we are taking this action, I'm asking all student loan borrowers to do their part as well. Take full advantage of the Department of Education's resources to help you prepare for payments to resume. Like, okay, they were probably paying on them for a long time, and they were getting it. But there are some tips to just say to make sure that you have all your account information updated, because over the last 2 years you could have changed bank accounts. A lot of things could have happened. Make sure you prioritize other financial goals and rethink your repayment strategy. A lot could have changed again in 2 years with your financial situation, and there's payment plans that are based on your income, so you might look into that. You might be eligible for a different payment structure. And make sure you review your loan terms and details, and you know for sure what you have coming up in May. But, hey, at least you have a little more break on those student loans. So, yeah, we were talking about all the Internet and the technology, and, all of this plays into your overall mental health and how well you do at your job and how well you plan. They talk about, eating and all that. When you're sleepy, you make poor decisions. So I bet there's people that when they're really tired and out of whack, they make bad spending decisions as well. So financially, you want to be at your best, and so you want to be well overall. And we found an article kind of in line about the Shalom
Yes,
Macon,
yes.
that this guy actually decided to take a 3-month digital detox to see if he could survive without technology. And it's a really funny article. Like Sherri said, if you want to get any of the articles, email either one of us, Sherri, SHERRI, or Becca, BECCA, at RF Money, and we'll send you these articles. But he went to buy a phone that didn't have the Internet. And no one understood what he wanted. They were like, well, we have one that's really slow internet, so maybe you'd get really frustrated and you wouldn't be able to get you might be able to get in your email. And he's like, I don't want to be online at all. And so he had a really hard time finding anything that could help him because he wanted a phone just for, emergency sake,
Yes,
and in case
like
there was
911.
911 in case he had a heart attack, or if his friends, maybe somebody died or somebody needed to notify him of something. So ended up saying that he got one of those jitterbug phones for the really old people, those big ones with the big buttons. And he had a friend that gave him an old laptop that wouldn't actually get on the Internet anymore. So that way he wouldn't be tempted to, in the middle of the night
Even
or
if
something.
he wanted to, he couldn't get on.
He couldn't. So he spent the 3 months, and it was just, this article is really interesting, talking about how it started out, how he felt so weird and out of sorts, and he felt stripped of everything, that he, wouldn't be able to see what's going on day by day. But it's just neat to see over the 3 months how his journey changed and how he, learned to sit and be quiet and be more intentional. He sat in cafes reading books, sometimes talking to strangers, often just being alone with your thoughts. The newspapers. He said he got into the habit of getting 3 different newspapers, and he'd read them every morning. And so he's like, it was really weird. Things would happen one day, and I wouldn't know about them until the next day. Instead of being on social media and scrolling through all day, being obsessed about hearing, something, he would just all at once have a big chunk of all of the news, and he would take it all in, and then he could move on instead of just being inundated with it all day long and just thinking back and forth, and it just keeps popping up in your brain. He could get all of that and then move on.
So I like this part of the article. So they did a survey. A total of 31% of U.S. adults admit they go online almost constantly, according to a 2021 report from Pew Research, from 21% in 2015 back to, wait a minute.
To the 21 to 31%.
Yeah, sorry about that. So anyways, today's information equals nearly 700 newspapers a day. It's too much information for any biological brain to consume. The share of American adults who say they read at least one book for pleasure over the course of 12 months has declined to its lowest level ever, from 61% in 1992 to less than 53% in 2017. The last year figures were available. But why does reading books matter? Aside from reducing stress and prolonging life, 30 minutes a day can add 2 years to your lifespan.
Isn't that crazy? And I thought about it. I used to read a lot more. But again, it's so much easier to get your phone and to get little snippets of things, and it takes dedication to really sit down and invest that time, because we're so, everything's so quick and so immediate that no one wants to I have to sit there for a half an hour and read something,
Cut the cable. It's very easy. Once you don't have TV, you're going to be sitting there like, oh, I guess I'll read a book. And that's what Randy did in 2007 and 2008 when the market was going down. I was watching the news all day long. I was going to the gym, and while I was on the elliptical staring at the news, and then I'd go home and I'd watch the news. And about 3 months into it, Randy goes, I'm going to do you a really big favor, and you're not going to be able to watch the news because I'm shutting it down. He cut the cable, and we haven't had it since, and it's been the best thing ever. And what we do every night is we read books. The last hour of the night before we go to bed, we read books, and it shuts our minds down, and we sleep better, and it's a total life-changing experience. But we've been doing that since 2008. That's a while.
Yeah, that is.
But anyways, the biggest thing, this guy confesses, he's written this book about all his experience. The biggest thing he missed was social media. I would look at Twitter and Instagram to see how many followers I had, he admits, of his most frequent Internet habit. I didn't look at the feed, the news, the buzz, just my statistics. It was as if I was saying to myself, see, more people are following you and you matter.
And that's just so many people are obsessed with social media, with Instagram and Snapchat and how many followers they have, and just like all those TikTok videos. I've never been on TikTok, but, they go to other different social media outlets, so you see the videos. But these people spend all this time during their day trying to come up with a video to get people entertained and to get more and more people to watch it and to look at them. And it's just such a weird world that we're coming, look at me kind of world. It's really neat that he said in his he wrote a book called Stolen Focus, But he said in his life before he fled to Cape Cod, which is where he went for his 3 months, I lived in a tornado of mental stimulation. I like that.
Yes, I like that.
I would never go for a walk without listening to a podcast or talking on the phone. I'd never wait 2 minutes in a store without looking at my phone or reading a book. And that really hit me when I was reading this because I love to run outside. If I'm going to run, I'd much rather be outside. So when I'm going to be at the gym because it's cold or I'm wimpy and if it's rainy out, I want to be on the treadmill in the gym. And I'm like, well, I've got to figure out something that I can listen to because I can't walk on that treadmill for a half an hour, and not do anything else. And that's exactly how my brain thinks. And I'm like, I've got to find some sort of podcast that I can listen to so I can pour stuff into me.
Yeah, I let go of all that. And I don't do any of that. I just have quiet time in my head when I'm on the treadmill.
And see, I need to work on that because I thought about this. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing. I want to multitask.
Well, it's what everybody else is doing, and so that's what you do because everyone else is doing the same thing, and so you just feel like you have to do that. It's just crazy.
Waiting in line 2 minutes without looking at your phone, I think about that. If I'm going someplace like the post office, post office on Russell Parkway, when I pull in the parking lot, and it's the lines to the door, and there's about 10 people in front of me, I'm like, well, at least I have my phone, and I'll start scrolling through, checking emails or something, because I always have my phone, so if I have to wait, I don't have to just stand there. He said the idea of not filling every minute with stimulation panicked me, and I found it weird when I saw other people not doing it. But he has since adopted a few tools to make sure that he doesn't fall in these bad habits. But it just really hit me that,
my phone just went off.
Oh. We try and fill every single minute of our lives. What's Randy have to say to it?
I think it's the neighbors.
But it's just really neat. He said there's a law in France that is called a right to disconnect. They passed it in 2017. Every worker has a right to written work hours and has a right to not check their phone or email outside of work hours. That's just one example of collective changes we can make as a society that will radically improve our focus. I like that. But so many people, especially the higher up you get in your job, the harder it is to turn that off.
Oh, man. When Randy was a squadron commander for the comm squadron, he had to have his BlackBerry on 24/7, and it would go off all night, all weekend. It was never ending. You couldn't not answer it because you're the comm squadron commander. It was just but
you never know. It could be horrible, and it could just be someone asking a simple question, but you've got to answer because you never know.
Yeah. Anywho,
we're at halftime. You want to do halftime?
Already?
Let me do
what?
Halftime. You've been listening to Becca and Sherri with Rosenberg Financial Group. Call us today. The number's 478-742-0940. We haven't had any calls yet. Tell us maybe how you wind down at the end of your day and get your brain settled down, or maybe if you want to admit that this is something you need to do better at.
Mm-hmm.
And we have offices in Macon, Warner Robins. We're financial advisors. We provide retirement planning advice. We manage our clients' investment accounts. We have all of our past radio recordings on our website, retirerelax.com. And you can check out our special reports there. We offer complimentary consultations. And goodness, we had a lot of complimentary consultations this week.
Yes, very busy.
We had a wonderful week. Met so
Fantastic.
many neat people. But we'll help you plan for a successful retirement. We do educational seminars on estate, retirement planning, Social Security planning. So call us. We haven't done too many this year, but we've already been out and done a few. It's great getting to know people and being able to offer you guys help and advice. Call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up a complimentary consultation or have us come out to your group and speak.
So I'm really glad you printed this article about chip.
The chip Armageddon.
Semiconductor supply chain. So I didn't realize that back in July of 2021 that our government tried to pass a law to appropriate $250 billion of government money to fund chip production.
It's called the Chips for America Act. There's a whole act, $52 billion.
So they were picking companies that were going to benefit from this. Intel, Samsung, Taiwan, which does not make chips in the United States, KLA. I mean, this whole thing, I didn't realize. I never saw this until you printed this out, because the article that I was reading was from Tuesday called Chip Armageddon Reveals How Terrifyingly Fragile the Supply Chain Is. So a new report from the Department of Commerce released Tuesday found that the typical inventory of semiconductor chips fell from 40 days in 2019 to less than 5 days. That's because we weren't making the right chips. I mean, when this COVID hit and people weren't driving and buying cars, all the chip manufacturing switched from automobile chips to laptop tablet chips because that's where the demand was. And so it just never flipped back to the cars. And a new car now requires 100 to 250 chips to even be built. So, yes, we have a supply lag. Everybody's piling in on this, but I think the government is a lag late because they always want to come in and act like they're going to save the day with a pile of money, and all these companies are already making them. Apple, Ford, Cisco. I mean, we have about 5 different companies in our portfolio right now that's all they're doing is chip production, and it's global. Everyone is piling in this, so why do we need the government to go into debt another billions of dollars to do this when everybody's already doing it?
And the interesting thing, it says the Biden administration has backed the bill, and last month, so this article's from January, so last month would be in December, nearly 60 CEOs from major corporations, including Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet.
For sure, they want to they have free money.
They all were sending letters trying to get the U.S. House to pass the CHIPS Act. It's crazy. The chip shortage poses risk to our entire economy, and the time is of essence. So 60 CEOs started writing letters because they just want money. Anytime they can get money, anything they can do.
And this is the only time I've ever agreed with Bernie Sanders. So write this on your calendar. Senator Bernie Sanders contended the legislation was akin to rewarding bad behavior, saying in a floor speech, chip makers have the wherewithal to build the necessary facilities on their own. We don't need to be giving them any money.
They're already doing it.
Do you believe he actually is the common sense in the room? What the heck?
With age, he's getting smarter. You know, and the article was talking about cars, and, you know, you can't be, you know, anywhere today and not see all the empty car lots, and it's so eerie looking, but it said that the price of new cars and trucks in December was up 11.8% year over year. So almost 12% more just to get a car from December 21 from December 20.
So don't buy a car right now.
No.
There's your financial advice for the day.
Too expensive.
Just keep driving the old thing you have. It's okay. So let me see here. The financial industry has spotted an opportunity to make money by helping people feel good about themselves. Despite claims to the contrary, these investments don't do much to make the world a better place. And we're talking about ESG funds, as they are known, who promise to invest in companies with better environmental, social, and governance attributes, save the planet, improve worker conditions, or in the case of the U.S. Vegan Climate ETF, prevent animals from being eaten. Who wants to eat an animal? That's just terrible.
God gave us animals to eat. A big old steak.
Money has poured into ESG funds as noisy lobby groups push pension funds, university endowments, and some central banks to shift their investments. The United Nations supported Principles for Responsible Investment says signatories have $121 trillion of assets under management, even assuming lots of double counting, blah, blah, blah. That is the most of the world's managed money.
That is crazy that many people are invested in that.
Yeah, ESG supporters. Well, I think it's fear. I think people are being threatened into investing into it. So it's like if you don't go along with this, then you're a bad person. Because
you don't want to save the world. Why do you just want the ozone layer to disappear completely and all of us die?
ESG supporters can point to what looks like successes. Their pressure has encouraged many companies to sell off dirty power plants, mines, and in the case of BHP, its oil business, it has even forced board changes at ExxonMobil. Sadly, selling off assets or shares by itself does nothing to save the planet because someone else bought them, right? If you sell something, someone bought it.
We got rid of it. We're doing a good thing. Well, there's somebody else out there that has it now.
Right. Just as much oil and coal is dug up and burned as before and under different ownership, and there are plenty of people out there to buy the assets. Rich people who want to make the world greener could make a difference by buying and closing dirty businesses, even when they're profitable. So far, though, this hasn't happened in any significant way. The pitch from Wall Street fund managers is the exact opposite, that by going green, investors can change the world and make more money, not less. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we're in a transition. Yes, everybody wants the world to be better, cleaner, and we're doing a good job with that. But investing in companies just because they say they're doing something doesn't really make sense. You need to be investing in companies that are doing something that is profitable. It shouldn't be just feel good.
And so a lot of the clients only get really enthusiastic if they get comfortable that they're not sacrificing returns. And so that's the big thing with this, right? You want to say that you're doing something good for the environment and all that, but you know, how willing are you to sacrifice returns? And so they're keeping some of the big companies in there anyway and trying to, you know, rationalize how they're helping the world and the fossil fuel situation. So some of the biggest sources of fossil fuels are immune to the shareholders' pressure anyway. It's just amazing the angle that these people have of trying to push these funds.
Just go look at what oil goes into. Go on the internet and look at how many things have to have oil to be produced. Most of my clothing has oil. I mean, most of my clothing is basically plastic. I mean, you just look at the car you drive. Look at the house you live in. Look at your windows. Look at everything that you own. Oil is in all of that. And if you think oil is bad, then I'd suggest you go buy a tent from Walmart and live out in the yard.
But if it's a tent and it's waterproof, it probably has some sort of oil base to it.
Right. You're right.
You get an environmentally friendly tent.
So there are three big pro-ESG arguments that sound reasonable but have major flaws. First, if companies treat the environment, workers, suppliers, and customers better, it'll be better for business. This could work where companies have missed something to boost profits, such as adding solar panels on a sunny roof or creating a better employee retention program. But here's the deal. You don't get to choose how a company runs its business. A company is in charge of running a business to make a profit, and they have employees and they have products they make, and that is how business works. I mean, they could scale this any way they want to and slant it and say that they're doing this and that and whatever, and it could absolutely not be even true. So just invest in a company that does something that everybody wants. That's what you should choose.
So it says, you know, profits can only be maintained by passing higher costs on through higher prices. So unless the firm has monopoly power, eventually customers who don't care will go elsewhere because, as you know, they're losing out on profits and the prices are higher. They're not going to be as interested. The second ESG point is that by shunning stocks or bonds of the dirty companies and embracing those of clean companies, it will direct capital away from the bad things and towards good ones. That's a really nice thought, and we wish that would happen.
It doesn't work like that.
But no, and you know, they, like I said, they sound reasonable and they're their arguments, but they all have major flaws, and it's really not working quite the way they think it is. It says, in practice, there's been a very weak link between the cost of capital and overall corporate investment for at least a couple decades. Small changes in the cost of capital pale in comparison to the risk and return projections of a new product.
This reminds me of the whole tree planting scheme that came out a couple of years ago when, I can't remember, when everybody's worried about global warming. And so all these companies globally emerged that you could go online and you could donate money, and for whatever dollar amount you donated, they would plant so many trees, and the trees would suck all the carbon out of the air and make us all live longer and be healthier and fix the planet. And it doesn't work like that at all. I went down the whole rabbit hole of this thing. So the trees that suck the most carbon out of the air have to be planted around the center of the earth. What do you call that?
The equator?
Yes, the equator. Thank you so much. So they have to be planted near there because that's where they get the most sun. And they have to be only certain types of trees that actually absorb carbon from air. So you can't go out in your yard and just plant 10 pine trees and make a difference with carbon. It doesn't even affect anything. It doesn't work. Even if you own land, like my family in Idaho had all this land with all these trees on it, it doesn't work because that's not where you can absorb the most carbon. It's only certain kinds of plants. It's only certain kinds of areas. And so all of these companies and fake companies emerged where you could go pay them money and make a donation to them, and they would go plant 10 trees in your name, and you're going to help offset your carbon footprint. It doesn't work at all. It is a total scam. Do not donate to anything like that because they can post anything on their website showing that they're doing a whole bunch of stuff that they don't really do. And so one website that I was looking at said that you would send $100 to plant 10 trees, and the people would literally go out and just throw like 10 seeds in the dirt, and then they could say, yeah, I planted 10 trees for you. Thanks so much for your contribution. But they really didn't plant anything at all. It was just a total scam. It's a racket. Don't get caught up in this stuff.
so many things that we have out there that you think you're helping and you want to feel good about, and people even get behind these causes. And, I can just picture all these young, 20-year-olds saying, we're going to go plant all these trees, and they think they're doing a good thing, but you don't really do the research and realize what you're doing. I can see like a whole big day where they have, and all these people are going out thinking they're doing so good. I mean, it's better probably to plant a tree somewhere than not plant a tree, but
right.
But you're not quite saving the world like you probably think you are.
Right. Okay, so oil prices hit a highest level since October 2014 this week. Rising crude prices are pushing the U.S. national average higher. The Biden administration is once again scrambling for solutions, considering that the high price of gasoline is a red line for most voters. High gasoline prices and the highest annual inflation in America in 40 years have become a sensitive political issue for President Biden. This year is also a midterm election year in which the Democrats will have to come up with solutions and hope for global events to rescue them if they want to keep control of the House and the Senate. I'm not going to go there. I changed my mind.
He says, we're going to try and continue to work on increasing oil supplies that are available. This is what President Biden said. They said they're ready to deploy its tools to address the latest increase in oil prices. So I'm not quite sure what all their tools were. This article we had mentioned it several times, but it never really went into great detail.
Right. So we were the number one producer in the entire world of oil. We were. And then he shuts down stuff, and now we're not. And now he's begging to OPEC. I just can't stand this. I mean, this is insanity. When we were already doing it. You already know this. We've talked about this. I'll stop talking about it. Okay. So the next thing.
You talk about the Venmo?
Yeah. Talk about that.
So we had an article about Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App are going to have to start reporting payments of $600 or more to the IRS. So what does this sound like? Kind of like the whole bank account thing, doesn't it? All over again.
Yep.
So the lawmakers have tried to figure out ways to figure out what people are really doing, and when people are making money, they want to make sure they get a cut of it. So it says, with tax season officially underway, Americans should be on the lookout for new laws that could affect your taxes. So basically, small business owners who rely on payment apps like Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, these companies are going to be required by law to report the user's business transactions to the IRS if they exceed $600 for the year.
How are they going to know if they're a business transaction is my question.
The only thing I can think about is when you register for an account there, you put personal or business, and people could lie about it.
Right.
But then I think with PayPal, maybe it was, they asked for some more authentication from me, either eBay or PayPal, and they wanted to know a little more information about me. And so I think they're trying to figure out what you do and track your habits, and, if you're getting things randomly or if you continually get, $99.99 payments from somebody or something.
So you're selling the same thing over and over and over.
So this is
but I just have a hard time believing the IRS is going to be able to do this.
Well, so it starts for 2022, so you don't have to worry about anything for last year, and when you're working on your taxes right now for last year, you don't have to worry about that. But you want to think about, if you do have a small business, you get a lot of payments through one of those Cash App type things, then you want to make sure for 2022 you're looking forward and know that you may get a 1099 that shows how much you made, a 1099K. So hopefully it would match from what they report to what you're reporting, but it may not. So it'll be really interesting to see how they actually track that and how they decide.
So Apple just came out and said that their phone is now going to have an app where you can run your business from your Apple phone.
Wow.
And that's not included on this. So I guess the IRS better speed up a little bit and figure out how they're going to track Apple payments too, because that's not on the list.
Or Apple's finding a way around it.
If you're using PayPal, maybe you need to switch to Apple, and then they won't know what you're doing. I don't know.
The funny thing I was talking about, so the people, it used to be that you only had to, these companies like PayPal or Venmo, they only had to report the 1099K if the gross income exceeded $20,000 or they had 200 separate transactions. So that would seem more businessy. But I can see a lot of businesses that don't have 200 transactions maybe in a year. But it said the new rule only applies to payments received for goods and services transactions, meaning that if you use Venmo or PayPal to send a loved one a gift, pay your roommate rent, or reimburse a friend for dinner, that'll be excluded. So they said gifts and reimbursements. This one cracks me up. Also excluded is anyone who receives money from selling a personal item at a loss. For example, if you purchased a couch for $300 I'm not sure what you would buy for $300, and sold it for $250, that amount is not taxable. How in the world?
That's not even a thing.
Do you even keep track of that? Like, I paid for this and I sold it for that, but how are they even going to know what you paid for? And that's just crazy.
Doesn't make sense to me. I can't imagine them being all over this.
But the PayPal person said the IRS will be able to cross-reference both our reports and yours. So don't try and get away with sneaky stuff.
That's right. We're not encouraging you to break the law. So this is interesting. And we've talked about jobs, and I had someone in my office yesterday who's been out of work for about a year, and she's starting to think about what she wants to do because she really can't retire. And we were brainstorming where she could go with her skill set, and she was in a job that was physically demanding in the past, so she doesn't want that. But she's extremely bright, extremely positive. She would be a huge asset to any company that she goes to. And so we were brainstorming, where could you go? What could you be? Really trying to think outside the box and trying to help her. She'd like to work from home. So I sent her an article after she left about all the companies that are hiring from home. Indeed has a really good website as far as working from home, and you can put in your location, your skill set, your education to try to hone down different jobs.
If we didn't already have full-time jobs and, kind of busy, it would be great to have like a after your main career job pool, because we get so many people that want to retire at like 55 or 60, and they don't have a source of income, and they aren't going to get Social Security until they're at least 62.
Or health insurance.
Until you're 65.
That's a big deal.
So we need to come up with this ideal job that all these people like retire, and then they go in and do this certain thing, and they get health care, and they get like part-time employment and income, and bridges them over to Social Security. So I don't know what that is, but we just gave you an amazing idea if you're listening.
So one of the biggest challenges of finding a new job is standing out among the competition, which I have a hard time believing that now with the shortage of workers. But it says in a pile of hundreds, sometimes thousands of applications, why should a recruiter pick yours? The difference between landing an offer or rejection can come down to skills, not just the qualifications you list in a single line on a resume, but also the examples you provide in an interview or cover letter. Hiring managers are prioritizing soft skills in a way they never have before. According to Monster's Future of Work Global Report, which includes responses from 3,000 business leaders in September, 58% of employers said finding candidates with the right skills has been their biggest hiring challenge during the COVID. Another 63% of employers, however, said they would hire someone with transferable skills, think teamwork, time management, leadership, and train them on the technical side of the job.
Isn't that amazing? They're so desperate that I know you've never done this before, but you seem like you can learn stuff. So come on in. Let's teach you how to do this.
And I will tell you who's hiring. Frito-Lay down in Hawkinsville. There's a ton of places hiring, but you need to check out Frito-Lay and all the jobs they have. Very good paying jobs. So do you want to go into the skill sets?
Yeah, so dependability is the number one thing they're looking for.
It's pretty big for me.
Yeah, it's
like
pretty nice when people
showing up every day.
They come in. It's really nice. Dependable employees are a tremendous asset to companies, and dependability is a key skill that employers expect from their teams and an important attribute to highlight on your resume. So I was talking about this article's great. So if you do have anybody in your life or you're looking for a job, email us. We'll send you this article. But it talks about ways to actually put that on your resume to highlight some of your skills. So it says you can show a recruiter you're reliable by explaining your day-to-day responsibilities in your most recent role. So you'd explain to them how you're like meeting deadlines, responding to requests. So you can make yourself, sound, well, hopefully you are doing this and not just sound like that, but that you meet all of your assignments in a timely fashion and that you're very dependable.
Yes, always.
Communication.
And then I would list a person they could come call and talk to make sure that what you said is actually true. That would be a good thing.
Can I get a reference? Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. Communication. Frequent, clear communication is a critical skill recruiters are looking for job candidates, especially in companies that continue to work remote and hybrid work. So I can only imagine.
To me.
Yeah,
totally makes sense that you're communicating what you're doing all day long and that you're not out just at the gym and Starbucks.
Well, and now that you can't meet with people face to face, just like people have talked about when you send people text messages, like if you accidentally hit caps and you send somebody a text message in all caps, or, I'm a bit sarcastic and I have a different sense of humor, so when I send things to people, they might take it the wrong way. But when you're in your work environment where you're face to face with people, you can read people and understand people better. But now that everything's offline, I mean, my husband went to his Christmas party for his work section. He works out on base, and he had, there was 1 or 2 people in there he'd met before, and these other people he had just met online, but it was like the first time he'd ever seen them. And then everybody looks a little different from the Zoom meetings in person. He's like, now, which one are you? So it's just so weird that you have to have a different skill set to engage with people because you don't have the usual ways. It's talking about, in addition to adding this skill to your resume, you can even put it on your LinkedIn profile, demonstrate your communication skills in action. So either your cover letter or when they're asking you questions in your interview, make sure that you're effectively communicating. Says another example is, how did you handle a situation that didn't go your way? You could note that you updated your team in real time on Slack or email, and then you made suggestions how you could improve. So again, it's even talking about that. We work mostly, all in person, and we do some meetings through Zoom or phone, but all of ours is really in person. So that would be interesting. How do you handle this? And you have a whole different skill set of handling things online. Someone had a situation where they were working with somebody, and it was their supervisor. They told them to do something, and they questioned it, and they're like, well, I don't really know that that's the right way. And so I think they were communicating through instant messages or something, on the computer.
That could go wrong.
Well, then the person said, well, this is what I'm instructing you to do. Go ahead and do this. Well, the employee didn't want to do it, and they just shut down. And so all of a sudden you're sitting there talking to somebody, and have they have little green dots. Shut their computer down. And so the dot went red, and they just disappeared offline. And so you're having a conversation with somebody, and you're trying to, get to the bottom of it.
Who does that?
And they just shut their computer down. Oh, I bet we'd be amazed.
Did they get fired?
No, they didn't.
Wow.
But, you have to learn different skills with this and how to handle situations, because you can't just go up to their desk and stand there and stare at them until you get it resolved. You can hide on the computers.
The last one is problem solving. The pandemic has required us all to adapt and be resilient in the face of constant change. Problem solving skills have become essential in a work environment where communication and collaboration can feel fragmented. That's a good word. Mm-hmm. Employers want people who are quick on their feet and comfortable resolving conflicts with unique solutions. Lead and solve problems using creativity and critical thinking. This could include working with a difficult client, helping with the staffing shortage, or resolving a technical issue. Everybody's dealing with that. Yeah, how do you deal with that? This is a really good article. If you're out, if you know somebody who's out looking for a job, they really need to make sure that they include these things when they do their application and focus on how they are going to bring these skills to their job, because it's needed.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the article just said, it's harder to stand out these days, and when you aren't maybe even meeting these people in person, because a lot of times people are doing interviews on Zoom now. And so, it's one thing to act your best in an interview when you meet somebody face-to-face, but what about when you don't even have to go in? You don't have to put on pants. You can have your PJ pants on.
Well, our daughter, the last interview that she had was 15 minutes. It was on the calendar, 15 minutes, phone only.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, with 2 people. So there were 2 people, and she dialed in, and they said to her, here's your first question. Answer it. Bam. And so she wasn't prepared because they didn't tell her the questions ahead of time.
Oh,
and so she was so stressed out because she was trying to answer it in the best way that they wanted her to answer it, but it just totally threw her off guard. She wasn't prepared at all because they didn't give her anything in advance. And so I don't really know how you do 15-minute interviews and find people that you really want to bring on your team. How is that effective and efficient? I don't even see how that works.
Right. Is that the type of company you only want people that respond really well under horrible stress?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me at all that they didn't give her something in advance to think about so that she could properly answer the question, or even give references so they could contact those people and say, here's how I did this, here's how I did that, here's why I'm good at this. It was just nuts. But, yeah, that's the last interview she had were like that, and she was just so stressed out about it, and she didn't get the jobs. And so I don't know what these people are looking for. I just find everybody I'm talking to says that it's just really a stressful environment for people looking for employment and people trying to hire people, because there's so much pressure on everybody that it's just not going great. Mm-hmm. So whatever. If you want this article, let us know. We'll send it to you because it's very good about how to really sell yourself and bring out your strong points.
One last thing, we're almost out of time today, but I had a couple clients in this week, and we talked about beneficiaries. And next week I'll share some interesting one, a young lady that doesn't have a will, and she's not married and doesn't have any children. And so we talked about how her money would be distributed without any will or anything.
Yeah.
And so we'll go over that next week. It'll be pretty interesting to see. You may not know, after you're passed away, you don't really care. But if you know in advance that maybe your money's going to go a different way, might want to get in there and get your will done.
Yeah.
But I had a gentleman, and his wife had passed away, and she didn't have any beneficiaries listed on 2 of her accounts. And it's been a year and a half that he's been trying to get this money moved out of her name. And so he's had to create an estate account. He's had all these different roadblocks.
Oh, my gosh, this could have been so simple.
Yeah, all she had to do, and it was married. All she had to do was list her husband. So we are about out of time today. But
I want to close us out?
Sure. You've been listening to Becca and Sherri with Rosenberg Financial Group. We are here in Middle Georgia in Macon and Warner Robins. We help everybody with, not everybody, but everybody that comes to us, we try and help them with retirement advice and planning. We manage your investment accounts. We have our wonderful website, retirerelax.com, where you can listen to our past recordings of our radio shows. You can check out our special reports. And we offer complimentary consultations. Like we said, we had so many people come in this week. It was a very busy week. It was just wonderful. People are wanting to start out the year right and come in to visit. They have questions. Like I said, I had 2 people that were in their mid-40s and early 50s and wanting to know if they can retire at certain times. And, we talked through different things about, what are you going to do from 55 to 62 waiting around for Social Security to kick in? So we can kind of help you look at some other things. Give us a call at 478-922-8100 or visit us at retirerelax.com.
And have a great weekend.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. No strategy can assure a profit against loss. Rosenberg Financial Group is located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, Georgia 31088, and can be reached at 478-922-8100.